Welcome to Scone Baking Beyond. Hi, I'm Kathy, and I enjoy making scones, muffins, cookies, and all sorts of delicious baked goodies. Valentine's Day is coming up, and I wanted to share with you today my recipe for red velvet scones. For Valentine's Day, I made these red scones heart-shaped. They have a wonderful hint of chocolate and a delicious drizzle of cream cheese icing. Start your Valentine's Day by making these red velvet scones for your sweetheart. So, let's bake. Whenever making scones, the first thing I always start with is grating my butter. I have here 1/2 cup of butter, and I'm going to grate it. I always grate my butter whenever I make scones because it gives it just the right size for mixing into the dry ingredients. There we go. All of our butter's all grated. Now I've handled this butter a little bit and started to come up to room temperature, and I want to keep this butter as cold as I can for as long as I can. So I'm going to put this butter up in the freezer. Our butter's in the freezer, so now it's time to get our dry ingredients together. I have here 1 3/4 cups of unbleached flour. I have 1/2 cup of whole wheat pastry flour. I like adding a little whole wheat flour to my baked goods, but I use whole wheat pastry flour because it's lighter in texture. I have 1/2 cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 teaspoon of salt. And we're just going to whisk this together. So now we're going to add our frozen butter. Remember, this is 1/2 cup of grated butter, and it's frozen now. I'll put that in our bowl. There we go. And we always have a few pieces that just like to skip the bowl. So we'll get those in there. Take out our whisk. Take our spatula. We're just going to mix up the butter. Because we grated it, I don't have to handle the butter, try to cut it in there. I can just mix it up. It's just the perfect size right now. And it keeps it nice and cold because we want to keep this butter as cold as we can for as long as we can. Because what happens is when these scones bake, the first thing that butter will do will let off a little bit of steam, and that'll create nice little layers in your scones. Okay, it's time to get our wet ingredients together. I have here 2 tablespoons of cocoa and 2 tablespoons of red food coloring. And I wear gloves whenever I deal with this red food coloring so that my hands don't get stained all red. And if you're using red food coloring gel, just use 1 tablespoon of red food coloring gel and 1 tablespoon of water. If you're using just regular red food coloring from the grocery store, you can use 2 tablespoons of that. So I'm going to put the red food coloring in with the cocoa. We're going to mix that up. I'm going to put this off to the side so I don't get red food coloring everywhere. We're going to mix up the cocoa in here. And it's going to give this cocoa, this brown cocoa, a nice little red hint. There we go. And you can start seeing that cocoa getting all nice and red. So now we're going to take this cocoa, which is on my whisk, and we're going to whisk it in to our 1 cup of buttermilk. And you start seeing it turn all nice and red in there. There we go. Okay, it's all whisked in, and look at that, it's nice and red. We have red buttermilk with a little hint of cocoa. Put that over there. Bring back our dry ingredients. So now we're going to add our red cocoa buttermilk to our flour butter mixture. Pour it all in there. And we're going to mix this up until it's just combined. You don't want to overmix your dough. Okay, our dough's all mixed up now, so I'm going to flour my board. Get a nice generous flouring. I'm going to put it on our board here. There we go. And now we're going to take a little technique from croissant making. And that'll give you some nice little layers in your scones also. There we go. Look how nice and red. Well, at the moment it's not so red, is it? But it will be. Get my rolling pin with some flour on it, and we're going to roll this out to a 12-inch by 12-inch square. Okay, let's see how we're doing. 12 inches. My scraper here is 6 inches wide. It has inches measured on it, so that's how I know what 12 inches is, and 12 inches back the other way. We're good. I'm going to square it up just a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in thirds this way, fold in thirds that way, and then fold it back into thirds and back till we have a nice little square package. And take my board here, put a little flour on it, put this on the board. I've handled this dough a little bit. That butter's starting to warm up, so I'm going to put this up in the freezer for about 5 minutes to get that butter cooled back down again. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. Our dough is nice and cold. That butter's nice and cold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this out to about a 1/2 inch thick. Okay, about a 1/2 inch thick. Because it's Valentine's Day, I thought, well, let's make these red velvet scones heart-shaped. So I have a heart-shaped cookie cutter, which I'm going to cut these scones with. Let me move this over here and bring in my baking sheet. I have a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. So I'm going to take my cookie cutter and cut out 12 heart-shaped scones. Now we're going to give it an egg wash. I have 1 whisked egg here, and so I'm just going to give each one a little bit of egg wash on top. Anyway, there we go. There's the last one. I preheated my oven to 400 degrees. I'm going to bake these for 15 minutes. Okay, it's been 15 minutes. Our scones are done. And the first thing I want to do is get these scones off this baking sheet so that the bottoms don't cook any more than they already have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my parchment paper here and just pull them right off. We're going to let these cool completely, and then it's time to ice them with that cream cheese icing. Okay, our scones are completely cooled, so now it's time to get started on our cream cheese icing. So I have here 2 ounces of room temperature cream cheese, 1 tablespoon of milk, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I use clear vanilla extract whenever I want to make a white icing. So we're going to whisk these together. Okay, it's totally whisked together, and now we're going to add 2 cups of sifted powdered sugar, about a 1/2 cup at a time. Okay, that looks really good. So now it's time to put in our piping bag. I have a 12-inch piping bag here, and I pulled back the top so that I don't make a mess. Now you can use either a piping bag or you can use a Ziploc baggie. I'd use a quart size Ziploc baggie. So there's our cream cheese icing. We'll get in our bag here. And here's our scones. Don't they look great? They're pretty red. I know they have that wonderful hint of cocoa in them. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the tip about 1/8 of an inch. There we go. And I thought I'd kind of give these a little decorative top because these are for Valentine's Day. So some of them I'm just going to give them a nice little line like this. Now the next batch, I'm going to give them a cross hatch. And the last batch, I'm going to cut my opening a little bit larger. There we go. I'm going to draw a heart. And then I'm going to fill it in. There we go. And take my little spatula and fill in the heart. So then our icing looks like a heart also. There. Doesn't that look cute?
Yes.
Okay. They're all iced with that wonderful cream cheese icing. And so now it's time to try one. Try this one right here. They're soft and tender inside. You get that wonderful hint of cocoa in there, and then the delicious cream cheese icing on top. These would make a wonderful start to your Valentine's Day by making your sweetheart red velvet scones. For the complete recipe, please go to my website, sconebaking.com. There is a link below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe. I hope this inspires you to bake. Thank you for watching.